大家好, I'm Martin, and this is Short Stories brought to you by the Taichung Keda Language Center. Today's short story is called The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. The word Indian in American English refers to Native Americans, not people from India, which can be a little bit confusing. But this story is about an Indian boy who lives in a poor area in the state of Washington, and about his struggles growing up. Before I read the story, I'm going to give you the vocabulary and vocabulary example sentences. After the story is complete, I will give you 4 listening comprehension questions. All right, what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Vocabulary. Bury. Bury. After Jimmy's cat died, he buried it next to a tree in the park. Worn out. Worn out. Stop wearing that worn out sweater. It looks like it's going to fall apart. Reality. Reality. John looks a bit scary, but in reality, he's a really nice guy. Rage. Rage. Tim was full of rage after the car crashed into his scooter. Yell. Yell. The teacher yelled at the students that were fighting in school. Novelist. Novelist. The novelist's book about aliens sold 1 million copies. Eventually. Eventually. It will take a long time to build the house, but we'll get it finished eventually. Exist. Exist. Dragons aren't real. They only exist in stories. Education. Education. A good education is the key to getting a good job later in life. Flatly. Flatly. No, I don't want to go shopping today, Ted replied flatly. Turn somebody's back on. Turn somebody's back on. Carla was very sad when her boyfriend turned his back on her. Hang out. Hang out. Chris and Jim always hang out together on weekends. Thrilled. Thrilled. Barry was thrilled when he saw the present his parents bought for him. Compete. Compete. Lucy will compete in next week's National Tennis Championship. Tribe. Tribe. The 2 tribes joined together to make an even bigger group of people. Coach. Coach. The coach chooses who gets to play and who stays on the bench. Poverty. Poverty. A lot of people live in poverty. They can't even afford to buy food. Now begins the story. My name is Arnold Spirit, and I'm a part-time Indian on the Spokane Reservation, where my ancestors, relatives, and friends were born and buried. You'd probably ask how I became a part-time Indian. Well, here's my story. I had been looking forward to starting high school for a long time. I could hardly wait to begin my first class. However, when I opened my new textbook, I realized it was actually 30 years old. I was hoping for a new start, but the worn-out textbook dragged me back to reality. In a burst of rage, I threw the book across the room, accidentally hitting my teacher, Mr. P, in the face. 1 week into my suspension, Mr. P showed up on our doorstep. Instead of yelling at me, he told me a story about my sister, Mary. Your sister used to be the smartest pupil in school. She dreamed of becoming a novelist, he said. But eventually she gave up her dreams like everyone else here. That's right. We Indians are used to losing everything. We have lost our lands, language, songs, and dance, and now many of us get lost in alcohol. Mr. P believed I was in a fury because I was different. You have to leave this reservation, Arnold. Go where people have hope. After our talk, it struck me that hope was not a white-winged horse, something that exists only in myth. Given the chance, I could spread my wings and fly too. I want to transfer schools, I told my parents. I want to go to Rearden. Rearden was a school in a nearby rich white town, and it was my only chance to receive a decent education. Why? They asked me. I want to make something of myself, I answered flatly. As expected, the white kids didn't welcome me at their school. Hey, Redskin, or Chief, they would shout at me. Compared to life on the reservation, Rearden was a piece of cake, though. At Rearden, I was the Indian kid, but back on the reservation, I was seen as a white lover. My ex-buddies began to call me names. Even my best friend, Rowdy, turned his back on me. Growing up in the same village, Rowdy and I had hung out together almost every day. Now I was all alone. As if there were not enough shocks in my life, Mary suddenly married an Indian from Montana and left our house to build a home of her own. I guess she, like me, was trying to live out her dreams. I was thrilled to join the Rearden basketball team. However, playing for Rearden meant I would have to compete against my tribe. It was the ultimate betrayal. When my team entered the gym, hundreds of Indians were chanting, "Arnold sucks," over and over. I will never give up, I told my coach, and I played as hard as I could. We lost in the end, but nobody at Rearden ever picked on me after that day. A few days later, my grandma died. People say poverty and alcohol always go hand in hand. Though my grandma never tasted a single drop of alcohol in her life, it still killed her in the end as she was hit by a drunk driver on her way home. Dad asked the surgeon if Grandma had any last wishes. "Forgive him," the surgeon said. Mom broke down and cried. Dad just stared at the man with blank eyes. The entire tribe came together for Grandma's funeral. Quite a few white men who had known Grandma came to say goodbye as well. After the funeral, Rowdy asked me to shoot some hoops. While playing, he said Indians always used to move around looking for new food, water, and places to live. Now Indians never moved at all. The only Indian that was moving was me, and he hoped I would continue to move on. Now for the questions. Question 1. Where is Arnold Spirit from? A. India. B. America. C. Spokane Reservation. D. Both B and C. The answer is D. B and C. The Spokane Reservation is in the U.S. state of Washington. Question 2. What advice did Mr. P give Arnold? A. Stay on the reservation and help his community. B. Leave the reservation and follow his dream. C. Stay on the reservation part-time. D. Become a professional basketball player. The answer is B. Leave the reservation and follow his dream. Question 3. Why do you think Arnold's friend Rowdy turned against him? A. Arnold insulted him. B. Rowdy went to a new school. C. Rowdy felt abandoned by Arnold. D. Arnold lied to him. The answer is C. Rowdy felt abandoned by Arnold. Question 4. Arnold's grandmother's last words were, "Forgive him." What did she mean by that? A. Arnold should forgive Rowdy. B. Mr. P should forgive Arnold. C. Arnold's father should forgive his son. D. Mary should forgive her father. The answer is C. Now, if you go back to the story, you might remember that when Arnold switched to the Reardon School, he instantly became unpopular back on his Indian reservation. His ex-buddies began to call him names, and even his friend Rowdy turned his back on him. It was seen as a betrayal to leave the tribe behind. So his father was also part of that problem, and his father had to forgive him for leaving the tribe. All right, that's the end of today's short story. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.